That last slide that you had is, yeah, that's a lot of great information. It's the conversation that we have, and it's going to be a great segue into my three pack. But it's the conversation. If you are an investor, and I am in the market to buy investment properties, the last thing I want is for rates to go down. I need higher rates. I need a little bit more time with the high rates, because that once they do drop, it's opportunities aren't going to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're going to have to start overpaying for properties versus appraisal.
Yeah.
Right now, you actually can get a deal potentially.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right, so that is a good segue. So number one question I get from family, friends, just consumers out there: how's the market? How's business? How are you doing? And it's always with that touch of
Negativity?
not negativity, but empathy, where they assume, because of everything that they hear in the news, they assume that everything is dire. And they're just like, oh, Mike, so how's it going? So we all get those questions. So I'm just going to run through just three simple. I have four typical responses. One of them would not be appropriate for kids. So we'll just stick with the three. And they all base from the same premise of taking advantage of opportunities. It's just a different way I pitch it. So one of the first things I say when somebody says, how's the market? I right away say, well, we're seeing historical opportunities. And all of a sudden, the tone and the conversation shifts, because they're like, well, what are you talking about? I hear that the market's horrible. And so kind of go through a little bit about what, kind of what Matt said. When I tell you, when you ask me how the market is, and I say, well, we're seeing historical opportunities, you can't tell me that there's not going to be a follow-up question to that, because they want to know, what does that mean? And we'll kind of go through the same stuff. Well, with rates high, many buyers are sitting on the fence. And even with low inventory, our buyers are getting incredible deals on homes. That is where you want to be. And I'm not I hate that saying, date the rate, buy the home, or whatever. But I get the principle. It's or marry the home. But you buy now, refinance later. You get the best of both worlds. Correct. Because, and I am using this term with people, it is when rates drop, not only are prices going to go up, it is going to be a bloodbath. Do you want to be part of it? And now I've just changed the narrative.
And it slows people down. I love the concept of historical opportunities, just those two words side by side. And
I might have learned something from my wife's book.
You think? There's actually, yes. And to her book, if nobody has read Mindy's book, you need to read Mindy's book called Scarcity. It's amazing how you can reapply that into every aspect of your life, from dating to real estate. But in this particular thing, take this away. What you're doing is you're slowing people down and giving and putting them in a position that now they want to know, what are you talking about? What do you mean? It's different from what I'm hearing. Yes, it's not national news. It's not sensationalism. It's boots on the ground, Main Street, USA.
Well, so the comments that I've heard is that we are in a post-pandemic, economic climate, a real estate market that we've never seen after a pandemic. Having it said as historical opportunities is that positive spin on what the market currently is. We've never seen a market like this coming after a pandemic. No one knows what their recourse was going to, or the repercussions of the decisions made during the pandemic were going to come. Now we're seeing them. That's what we're into right now. And so it's the waiting game, the hold your breath. It's the people that are on the fence. I had a conversation on Friday with people that were out of town. They were looking at buying in Arizona couple of years ago, decided they wanted to wait, and all we keep hearing is I kick myself and kick myself and kick myself. And that's across the board in any state, not only Arizona, but your buyers that are waiting, they're going to be super frustrated in a few months.
I will warn everybody, though, if you're going to take this response out for a spin, you better be able to answer the follow-up questions, because the follow-up questions are coming. Second thing I say when somebody says, hey, how's the market? How's business? I say, well, it's incredible. I say we're busier than ever. That's the one people go, what? You're not supposed to be busy. Everything I'm hearing in the news, everything I'm hearing, my neighbor's a realtor and he's about to go out of business and all this stuff. And I always just say, well, the market's incredible. We're busier than ever. Buyers are still buying. Sellers are still selling, and going back to the historical opportunities. And I use the word savvy because I want people to feel like they want to be savvy. Savvy buyers and investors recognize these unique times and opportunities, and they're jumping in the game while everybody else is sitting on the fence, and to Nick's point, and going to kick themselves a year from now.
So there's a couple of things right here that we're seeing. If you're listening to national news, you're not paying attention to the local market. Number two, the national news and the local news, typically by a narrative perspective, is talking to a single family primary residence homeowner or home seller. So whenever, think about this, just go back historically and think about whenever it wasn't good for a primary homeowner, somebody who was buying a home for themselves to live in or sell a home, whenever it's not been good for those people, who's it been good for? Investors.
Yep.
So, it depends. It's like, okay, so the September market's coming to a close. October is going to be the dwindling down of our hot summer market, and then all of a sudden what? Okay, well, you're going to either go on hiatus or you're going to realize there's a second home market that's just coming back to the valley that's been gone for 6 months. Our snowbirds are, and so if you're not pivoting and realizing that if the narrative's bad for homeowners as a single family primary residence, then it must be great for the investor. If it's really good for the investor, it's not good for the homeowner. So, or if it's bad for an investor, guess what? It's fantastic for a single family residence.
Yeah, and Nick, I'm glad Todd brought up the term. It's all about changing the narrative.
Correct.
When you're going to meet with somebody, or you're going to start phone prospecting, calling friends, or your friend calls you, they already have this narrative in their mind of what's going on in the market. And I'm telling I use this one. I use all three, but I use this one all the time. It's just, when I tell people, it's incredible. They're expecting me to tell them bad news.
Mm-hmm.
And they're expecting to have to comfort me. And now all of a sudden, I've flipped the script, I've flipped the narrative, and now they want to have, because the whole goal of this is to have a deeper real estate conversation. And now I'm having a deeper real estate conversation. I can't get everybody off the fence, but I can get a lot of people off the fence.
When you're having a truer real estate conversation than what the narrative that's being put out there by the media, I mean, Todd hit it on the head. You're following national, you're following news. Unfortunately, news is now an entertainment vertical. It is click, it is interaction, it's eyes on screen. There was an article this weekend, late last week, that talked about how rents are going up. Well, rents went up from 2016, 2021. They've stopped going up in the last 12 months, and they're actually projected to start coming down. And so having an article that says rents have gone up it's false. It's not accurate. So you, as the real estate expert, need to know what is actually happening in the marketplace. And that's why it's important when you start having these conversations, you need to be able to back it up, because you're going to start getting those. What do you mean it's busier than ever? How is that possible? You need to be able to explain why and how.
Yeah, and this is it's really the only way to combat the news. I can't fight with cable news. I can't. I don't have the bandwidth, and I don't have the reach, but I have experience. And if you think the market's bad because you're reading the news or listening to the news, and I am telling you that I'm busier than ever, and my buyers are buying and my sellers are selling, I'm overcoming that obstacle. And then the third response, and this is my favorite one. It's like, depends on who you are. How's the market? Well, just depends on who you are. Yeah. If you need to buy, you need to buy. So everybody always asks me, well, is it a great time to buy or is it a great time to sell? Well, it just depends. It depends on your motives. It depends on your needs. It depends on your timeline. There is no blanket response to that question. But if you need to buy, you need to buy. Okay, so it doesn't matter. The market's it's good for you. If you need to sell, you need to sell. But, it depends on who you are. Are you looking for a great price on a home?
Yeah,
or are you looking to compete in this bloodbath and jump into the bloody waters with the great white sharks and the seals and stuff like that? Depends on who you are.
Mike, how long you and I have been doing this for a while, but the thing is how long have we seen the fact that, when what makes people move when they don't want to move? A life event. Something happens. You lose your job. You get another. You find out your wife's pregnant with quadruplets. You need to relocate for whatever reason. That is a outside stimulus that kind of forces people into the buy-sell scenario. On the other hand, you might be just looking to add to your portfolio, or maybe you're really looking for that final fourth quarter property or whatever. So yes, but the big thing is nobody ever found their perfect house everywhere they look. I mean, everybody has a different needle in the haystack. What they're looking for is absolutely different than the next person is looking for. So don't listen to everybody else's dilemmas. Don't listen to all their heartaches. Focus on your own. Get together with your realtor, or if you are a realtor listening to this, because obviously that's our purpose. Give your seller or buyer an opportunity for you to put them in the position to come to the realization that you have resources like your mobile app, like your website, if it's an I Found Agent website, and you can put people on there with campaigns and help find the property they're looking for. Because the coolest thing is when they're out there shifting in their mindset. Oh, I want a 2,800 four bedroom on a pool with a view, and then all of a sudden you start seeing them look for 3 bedrooms, with something else. There's clues left everywhere, but don't give your buyer the positiveness of that what they're looking for can be found.
Well, no, and again, it comes back to who you are. If your FICO score is 540, you haven't worked in 3 months, you got less than $150 in the bank, the market's not very good for you.
Of course.
Right?
Well,
But it's all about,
Yeah.
Nick, depends on who you are. And you might go, well, what does that mean? I go, well, are you opportunistic? Are you looking for great opportunities?
It's having that conversation to be able to get even those people that have not the best scenario. You work with them, you cultivate, build that relationship. And that's what these are. Their ability for you to go out, have conversations in the real world and speak like an expert to the people that are asking you, how is the market? I think that's fantastic stuff there. And if you're still a little bit confused, reach out. Let's have a conversation, because there's a lot of things you could be talking about right now when you're out in the world.
And one last thing, if I can, Mike, is that, people, our job is not to really change their mind. Our job is to put them in a position to change their mind all by themselves. And so the more we try to change people's minds, the more they're putting up those emotional and I'm not listening walls. And the moment we try to help them realize how they can better position themselves, well, now that's a client.
Yeah, again, it's all about having deeper real estate conversations with people. Take inventory after this podcast. When people are asking you, how's the market? How's your business? What are you saying?
Yep.
If you're saying, oh, it's really slow, it's going to stay slow.
Yeah, exactly. What's that old-fashioned thing Gary Vaynerchuk used to say? If you think you can't, you won't. If you think you can, you might.